Welcome to my channel, and I'm back with you once again with another video of Microsoft Flight Simulator 24. This video is a complete tutorial of the Boeing 737-8 MAX, in which I will take you through all the procedures, like how to start this plane from the cold and dark state, how to fly it on autopilot, and how to perform an ILS approach and landing with this plane. Every time when I'm making a video, I'm making it for the beginners, so that's why I just try to keep things really simple, to the point, and I just try to take you through all the steps. So before I begin this video, let's have a look at the different parts of the cockpit. So over here you have the overhead panel, and this overhead panel has got two parts, the aft and the forward. So this is the aft part, and over here you can do the stall warning test, and plus it has controls for the IRIS, which is inertial reference system, which gives GPS coordinates to the flight management guidance system. And then you have the passenger oxygen control over here as well, and dome light. Now for the forward overhead panel, you have controls for the fuel, for the hydraulic pumps, electrical systems, and then the window heat, the anti-ice controls, then air conditioning, APU bleed and the engine bleed, and plus cabin pressurization and the lights. Now this plane has got 4 big screens, and this is the prime flight display on the left hand side and on the right hand side, and this is a navigation display, which also has ICAS, which is engine indicating and crew alerting system. So you get the alerts over here on these screens, and plus about the engine, you get all the information. Then this is the pedestal, and on the pedestal you have got controls for the communication and for the navigation. These are the 2 thrust levers for the engines. This is the control for the flaps, and this is for the speed brake. And then you have fuel control switches for the engine, and then you have the 2 FMCs, or the flight management computer. So let's reset the view, and first of all, before we proceed further, let's do some preliminary pre-flight checks. Just make sure that the thrust lever is in the idle position, and the gear lever is down, the speed brakes are retracted, and the flaps are also retracted. And then make sure that the wipers are off. So first of all, we have to get some power in the plane. If you look over here on the overhead panel, you will see this control for the battery. Just turn it on and close this lid. That's it. Now you cannot keep on running this plane on the batteries. Just press Shift 7. You will get this view, and you have to then move to this ground power. You have to turn it on. But before this, let's increase the brightness of the panel, because then you will get the information about the different power sources on the screen. So once you, let me just check, do we have anything? Yeah, the ground power is already available, as you can see. If I just move the slider, you can see it's available. But if it's not, then what you can do is this. You can simply move this switch here, and then you will have ground power. So right now there is no power from the APU, nothing from generator 1, nothing from generator 2. It will be available once you turn on the engines. So these are the few things that you have to do, and before you proceed further, just make sure that the fuel pumps are also off, and plus the hydraulic pumps are also off, which are over here. So right now you can see that engine 1 and engine 2 is on. Just turn it off. That's it. I actually have a very long checklist for this plane, so I'm just going through it as well, because I've been doing lots of flights with this plane in X-Plane 11 and X-Plane 12, and for X-Plane there is a very good version available, which is known as the Zibo mod, Zibo Modified 737. It's currently one of the best free sources available on the internet for the Boeing 737. Then in the Microsoft Flight Simulator, you have the PMDG 737, which is also a very good, fully functional plane. So I have that checklist, and I'm just going through that. Now just make sure that the cabin utility is on, and plus the in-flight entertainment system for the passenger seats, it's also on. That's it. Now you have this control for the emergency lights. So just arm it, move it down. If the switch doesn't work by clicking it, so just hold it with your left mouse button and just move it down and close the lid. That's it. Now there is this light, which is position, strobe and steady. Just move it to steady, and that's it. Now just press Shift 2 and go to the FMC and do some calculations for the fuel and for the passengers and for the cargo. So on the FMC, you will see the screen ident. This has the model of the plane and plus the navigation data. Press menu, go to the settings, and you will see this option, weight and balance. So just go over here and set the passengers. So it's right now you have 17 passengers. You can change it to 172, but it will not take 172. It will just take 136. That's it. You can also change the cargo. So let's say if I set the cargo to 15,000, I can do this. And I can also change it from here by setting up the percentage for the payload. Let's say I just want to carry 80%, the cargo will reduce. And even if I want to take 50%, the cargo will further reduce, and the passengers have also reduced. So let's keep it at 86%. Now you have 148 passengers. And if I go to 90%, 155. And with 100%, complete 172. Then you can reduce the cargo. Let's say if I keep it at 13,000 pounds, now the passengers remain 172. So that's how you can do it. And you can also change the fuel. The center of gravity is showing a negative. Amazing. You can go with 30,000. And that's it. So let's adjust the payload, and let's keep it at 85%. And that's it. So this is how you do this weight and balance calculation over here. Now, as the fueling is complete, I can turn on the seatbelt signs, and you can see the seatbelt sign control is over here. Just move it to auto, and the no smoking sign. If it's set to auto, then the seatbelt signs will keep on turning on and off during the flight as per the different phases of flight. Otherwise, you can also turn it on. But for this, you then have to turn it off above 10,000 feet during the climb. That's it. What else? Then just make sure that the recirculation fans left and right, they're set to auto, and just turn on the packs. This is the air conditioning. Make sure that the isolation valve is open, and press Shift 8, go to this part of the overhead panel and set the iris to nav, because you want to get the GPS coordinates in order to configure the FMS. So press Shift 8 once again, and you're back. So over here, if I go back to the settings page, you will see this iris align time set to instant. You can change it to real or accelerated. If it's real, it will take like 6 to 7 minutes. Accelerated, it will take 2 to 3 minutes. And instant, it's done instantly. And once you have the iris alignment complete, then you will get this prime flight display and the navigation display. That's it. Now it's time to configure the FMC for the flight. So just go to index, and over here, just go to this option, position, and then you will make the flight plan. I can use the electronic flight bag for the flight planning as well, but you have to select the SID and star. But if you use the Microsoft Flight Planner, it automatically selects the SID and star, which is the standard instrument departure and the standard terminal arrival. So now I will go to the Microsoft Flight Simulator and make a flight plan over there. If you're familiar with this process, you can skip this section. Otherwise, you can just go through it. First of all, let's select the aircraft, and the aircraft is 737. You need to select the aircraft because you have to do this fuel calculation over here. Then select the route. So for the origin, it's Dubai. I'm doing this flight from Dubai to Qatar. And for Qatar is OTHH, which is Hamad International Airport. A short flight. And let's auto-select the departure and auto-select the route. So this is the power of this tool, that it gives you the SID, which is standard instrument departure automatically. This is showing over here in red color. The SID not only gives you different waypoints or the direction, but also gives you speed and altitude constraints for the departure if there are any. Then in purple, you have the flight path. In green, you have the standard terminal arrival, because once you're going to land at an airport, there is a procedure that you have to follow. So the star gives you the direction and plus the speed and altitude constraints if there are any. And plus you have the approach. Now there is this discontinuity because you have to fly this approach based on the vectors or the heading given by the ATC. So that's it. You can quickly do this, and if you're not really familiar with this tool, I will give you a link in the description in which I have just shown you how to make a flight plan over here in detail. So you can just go and watch that video if you want to learn this tool in detail. Fuel and payload, I will not do it over here because every time when I've carried out fuel calculations from here, they were not so accurate. So that's why I will just leave it like this. And I will create a new flight plan, or rather what I'll do is this, instead of creating new one, I will save it. Otherwise, I have to start it all over again. OMDB to OTHH, and I will name it as 737 and save the new flight plan. Now over here, I will load this flight plan, and that's it. And I can send it to avionics and execute. If you go to this option route, you will see this flight plan is now here. And if you go to this option legs, you will see the complete flight plan. Now there's this discontinuity, as I have shown you before, that after some point you have to fly this flight based on the vectors, and plus there is which is, I think, over here, and this is the point. So you have to delete this, and plus you also have to get rid of this discontinuity. Now there are two ways to delete this discontinuity. You can select this option, delete, and then click over here, and this discontinuity will be deleted. Or what you can do is this, you can click this waypoint, Tosta, and click over here, and it will be deleted. Now for the vectors, just delete it, execute, and you can again delete this, execute, and that's it. Now let me just go to this view, and over here in the navigation display, I will change it to flight plan, move this knob to plan, and then zoom out a bit. And now you can see this flight plan is as per the flight plan, the Microsoft Flight Planner. Go to this option legs, and you can just press this button, next page, and you can scroll through this plan. No discontinuity, everything is good. Let's get back to this view. Now, go to this option route, and now we have to do some performance calculation. Zero fuel weight. So it picks up the zero fuel weight automatically, but if you click this button, it will not work. So you have to get it from here. Go to menu, settings, and weight and balance. And this is the zero fuel weight, the weight of the plane without the fuel, but it includes the passenger and the cargo. So it's 138.6. So let's go back and 138.6. And then the reserves, just go over here in this option. And you have a final reserve 6 pounds, so just enter 6 pounds. Cost index, it's a number which determines how much fuel will be burned during the flight. So if you keep a higher number, more fuel is burned, but the range of the plane decreases, but the plane goes at a higher speed. But if you keep a small number, the plane goes at a slower speed, but the range increases. This number can be between 0 to 100. So for the flights that I do, I keep it at 80. I want to go at a higher speed. Then the flight level will be 32,000. So I can either enter 32,000 or 320. And that's it. And press execute. Now the VIN information is not there. If you go over here in the flight plan and you click this option, you will only get the VIN information for Dubai International Airport. But if you want to get the VIN at the cruising altitude, this information is not available over here in the simulator. For the VIN at the cruising altitude, you can get this information from SimBrief, but I don't want to use SimBrief for this video. I only use it when I'm making videos for the any build planes, because they need a SimBrief account, and you can just get all the information for the flight, and plus you can also do the takeoff performance calculation. But these planes, you can get the information from SimBrief, but I try to use all the resources available in the Microsoft Flight Simulator, because mostly the people don't want to use that tool. So they are more comfortable with the built-in tools. So I just try to explore all the built-in capabilities. So that's why for this video, I will just keep it blank. But if you know how to use SimBrief and how to get this VIN information, then you can just take it from there. Now, you have to set the transition altitude. So let's go to this option for the departures. You have this SID. It's already green. So this is the one we're using. And transition altitude is 13,000. So it is the altitude at which you will change the barometric pressure from the given one to the standard. So this is the barometric pressure. Right now it's 29.92 in inches. You can use it, you can change it to HPA by moving this knob. So it's 1013. And currently in Dubai, it's 1022. So you can move this knob, the smaller one, and you can adjust the altimeter. The planes get the altitude based on the barometric pressure. So that's why you have to adjust the barometric pressure to get the right altimeter readings. That's it. So this is the altitude at which I will change it from the given one to the standard. Now you have N limit. There are 3 settings for the thrust for the takeoff. This is the maximum thrust. This is a derated thrust by 10%, and this is a derated thrust by 20%. So right now you can see takeoff N1 on the thrust is 91.7. If I select this option, it will be 80.5, and then it's 73.4. So I will be taking off with this thrust, with the maximum thrust. No need to derate it. If you want, you can do this. Actually, it's required because if the plane can take off with a reduced thrust, why you need full thrust? And even for the climb, you have different settings, climb 1 and 2. So during even the climb, the thrust is adjusted, but it will reduce the vertical speed or the climb rate. So it's better to keep it over here if you are not in the mood of saving fuel. Then there is another setting for assumed temperature. You can further reduce this thrust. So let's say if I keep it at maximum, but if I want to further reduce it, Then you assume a temperature which is higher than the actual temperature. So actual temperature right now is 15 degrees centigrade. So it's actually a formula to calculate that. But I'll just give you an example. Let's say in summers, it's 45 degrees or 46 degrees centigrade. And you assume that the temperature is 60 degrees. So once you set it, the thrust is further reduced because you want to put less stress on the engines because it's really hot outside. So that's why if the plane can take off with the reduced thrust, why you want to give full thrust to the engines. And if the assumed temperature is 50, you will see the thrust will increase. And let's say if I keep it at 30, it will further increase. So this is the setting. Actually, this is also useful when you have a proper takeoff performance calculator. You can use the one available in the sim brief to do this. But as I've told you before, for this video, I will not go to sim brief because mostly the people are not really comfortable with that tool. Now let's get the takeoff performance calculation, and flaps will be 5. Again, if you have a takeoff performance calculator, you can have the optimum flaps for the takeoff. But remember that flaps not only provide lift, but they also provide drag during the takeoff. So you want to go with the optimum settings of the flaps. I can even set it to 10. You will see these speeds for the takeoff will change. So let's go with 5 flaps. Now the center of gravity, just go back and you will see in the performance center of gravity is 6. So just go over here and enter 6. This will give you the settings for the trim, for the elevator, whether to pitch up or down during the takeoff. It's basically nose pitched up by 8.5 degrees during the takeoff. I will just show you right now. So now you have the speeds V1, VR and V2. V1 is the speed or you can call it the decision speed. Before this, if you want to abort the takeoff, you can do this. But after this speed, if you try to stop, the plane might overshoot the runway. So that's why you have to take off. VR is the speed at which you take off, and V2 is the speed you want to achieve after the takeoff, because this is the speed at which the plane can still fly without one engine, or can fly on one engine. So that's why these speeds are there. So let's get these speeds, V1, VR, and V2. That's it. Now there are more other settings. If you go to this VNav, you have to set the wind for the descent. If you click this option forecast, you can request for the forecast. Maybe in the future, this feature is available. Again, at different altitudes, you can set this wind by going to SimBrief. Okay. So now this FMC is set for the flight. I can press Shift 2 and go back to this view. And now we can proceed further with this startup procedure. So before engine start procedures, just make sure that you have the flight directors on the mode control panel. This is the mode control panel. Just turn it on. Because if the flight director is on, then the plane will follow the flight plan, which is over here. Otherwise, it will not. Now, the speed, you will set it to 156 knots because this is the speed you want to achieve right after the takeoff. This is the V2 speed. Let me just check it again. $155. That's it. The heading of the runway is I'm taking off from runway. Which runway I'm using? Let me just check. 30 left. It's I think 299 degrees. If I'm not wrong, 299 exactly. So let's set it to 299. I'm setting it because, if you don't want to activate LNAV, and if you want to fly this plane in the heading mode, then, you need this heading. And the cruising altitude is 32,000 feet for this flight. So let's set it to 32,000. And plus activate the LNAV and the VNAV. But for this, you have to activate auto throttle and then activate VNAV. This is lateral navigation and this is vertical navigation. So right after the takeoff, when you will activate the autopilot will, let me just set it, the autopilot will also will follow this flight path, the lateral navigation, and plus it will also carry out the vertical navigation or the vertical flight path. So it will automatically set the speed and the climb rate or the descent rate. That's it. So now the mode control panel is set. Just this is actually the EFIS, Electronic Flight Instrument System. You can just control the display for the navigation. Now just press weather and you will see these circles over here. You can also do it over here for the screen. That's it. Now turn on this fuel pump, this one for the aft, and now it's time to turn on the APU because now I will be proceeding with this pushback. So that's why I have to disconnect the ground power. But for this, we should have some power in the plane, and APU provides this power till the time the engines are on. Now this switch, just move it to start and then just leave it. It will go back to on again, and now the APU will start. You can move this switch over here and then you will see whether you have the APU or not. Once you have the APU, this APU generator bus, off bus, will turn blue, and then you can just turn on these switches in order to convert the battery, the power from the ground to the APU. That's it. Just make sure that the yaw damper is on. That's what's required. And let's turn on the hydraulic pumps, which are required for the flight. This is for the cabin pressurization. So the flight altitude is 32,000. So set it over here. And then the cabin pressurization will be automatically carried out as it's set to auto. And that's it. And now you can see APU is now available. Just move it on and that's it. Now you have power from the APU. You can just turn off the ground power. Now you can turn on the fuel pumps. Turn on the anti-collision light and you can turn on the logo light. And turn off the packs because you'll be needing this air to start the engines. Just turn on the APU bleed and turn on the engine bleed. You can see duct pressure is increasing. So APU bleed is basically a pressurized air which is used to turn on the engines. So if I keep the packs at auto, you will see this duct pressure will drop. So that's why you keep it over here, because you need this air to turn on the engines. That's it. Anything else? I'm just making sure everything is good. Nothing else. Great. Now let's go back to this view and let's call for the pushback and release the parking brakes.
Dubai ground, Boeing Papa Charlie Golf 929er requesting pushback.
Boeing Papa Charlie Golf 929er pushback request accepted.
and the pushback has started, and the plane automatically turns towards right. So I will just leave it like this. Now over here you will see the switch, engine start. Just move it to right and move this knob to ground. Let's turn on the right engine, or the engine 2. And now you have the fuel control switch for engine 2. Just turn it on, and then you will see that the engine 2 will start. Let's go out and see. So now engine 2 is running. We will wait for this engine to stabilize. Anyhow, I'll ignore this pushback. So once this engine is available, this switch will automatically move to off. That's it. Now move this switch to left and move it to ground, and turn on this switch, the fuel control for engine 1, and now the engine 1 will also run. So engine 2 is available. Let's make sure this is a very good flow for this plane. You go from left to right and then up and down. So flight control, they are covered, and spoilers on, covered. You have the yaw damper on. Navigation is set, FMC set. Display is okay. Fuel pumps are on. Right now you can see no power from generator 1 or generator 2 because we have to now switch. So now you can see the generator off bus, they're on. So just move it to this on position, and that's it. Now APU is no longer required, so you can turn off the APU, and you can turn off the APU bleed, and then now you can turn on the packs, and that's it. Now the plane has air conditioning. That's it. As you can see, we have power from the generator 1 and generator 2. Ground power. Okay. Anyhow. And let's turn on the wing lights for the taxi. Wheel well lights on. And then the taxi lights and runway turn off lights on. Window heat, turn it on. And for the anti-ice, if you're flying in the icing conditions, then turn it on. This is for the wing and this is for the engine. That's it. You can control the temperature of the cabin from here, the air conditioning, and now everything is good. So let's go back to this view. Now let's extend the flaps to position 3 or 5 degrees. And extend it by 3 notches. That's it. Now these are the auto brakes. Let me just show you. This is the auto brake. It's required in case you want to reject the takeoff before V1. So just move it to RTU, which is rejected takeoff. That's it. Now you can move this ICAS to this screen. Just press this button, transfer, and it will just go over here. And now you can do the flight control test. Let me just get my controller. So forward, back, elevators are working, left and right, the ailerons are working, and the rudder is also working. That's it. Now you can get rid of it. Press system, and this will disappear. And now as the engines are up and running, you can also get rid of this message or this information. If you click engine, this will disappear and you will only get the necessary information required for the engines. That's it. I will also do one more thing. You see this control for the pedestal. Just move it, and now this pedestal is also bright. You can change the frequencies for the communication if you want, and that's it. Now everything is looking good. I think I have covered the complete startup procedure. There's nothing left, just making sure. And the last thing that you have to do is set the trim for the takeoff. Now this green area is for the takeoff. You can just keep it anywhere. Just move it. This is 5, this is 6, 7 and 8. And if you go to the FMC, you will see that it's 8.5 clear. It's 8.5. So you can move it over here. But what I've experienced is this, that with these speeds, 145, 146 and 155, and with this flap setting, the plane automatically takes off. You don't even have to use the control for this. So I think maybe these speeds are very high. It should be around about 130 to 135 knots, or maybe this trim setting is high. So maybe you can do some flights, and then you can just keep it somewhere here, 5 or 6. Just try some flight with it, and let's see if you get a good takeoff. That's it. Now you can release the parking brakes and taxi towards the runway for the takeoff and enjoy a good flight with this plane. Right now I am on the runway 30 left, ready for the takeoff. Before the takeoff, I just want to adjust the altitude. I will be cruising at 32,000 feet, but I will change it to 10,000 feet because, I just want to show you something related to the climb for this plane, because I think there is a bug. That's it. Now you have the speeds over here, although I can also show you over here. I think it's clear. So V1 is 145 knots. This is the decision speed. Before this, you can stop. Otherwise, you have to take off. And the rotate speed is 146 knots. And 155 knots is the speed at which you can just fly without one engine. You can still fly with one engine. So I will be aiming for this speed. And let's adjust the altimeter. It's adjusted. That's good. If you look over here, and plus on this screen, this is basically the flight mode annunciator, which will tell you different modes of autopilot. Right now, LNAV and VNAV is armed. That's it. So now I can release the parking brakes. And before this, let me just set the flaps. As I had to restart the simulator. So I think all the settings are the same. Nothing is different. That's it. Let me just get rid of the errors if there are any. And that's it. Now I can release the parking brakes and I can take this plane up in the air. One more thing. This is the thrust required for the takeoff. It's a D-rated thrust. As you can see, D takeoff, TO is appearing over here. So I will just keep the thrust over here for the takeoff. Let's take this plane up in the air. And that's it. Positive rate of climb. Gears up. Now I will adjust the vertical speed in such a way that the speed remains here, although it will change. This is the speed that the autopilot is aiming. Yeah, that's it. Now with this, I can also turn on the autopilot, just press this button and the autopilot is now active. Now you can see the VNAV speed is appearing. It means whatever the speed is as per the FMC or the flight management computer, the speed is there. And LNAV is for the lateral navigation, so it's now active. Now the speed will increase up to 220 knots, and this is the speed above which you can start retracting the flaps. So let's retract the flaps. Over here, I can also set the flaps to 1 degree. Let's wait for it. That's it. And now this is the speed you can fly without the flaps. So I can further retract the flaps and let's turn off the auto brakes, and that's it. Now everything is looking good so far, and you have these altitude constraints appearing over here on the navigation display. At this altitude, at this point, you should be 2,500 above, and over here you should be 3,500 above. Right now you can see the plane is climbing. So I will just wait for the plane to reach 10,000 feet, then I will just take you from there. Now the plane is about to level off at 10,000 feet, and you can see the speed is increasing because now the plane has also crossed this point where the altitude speed constraint was 220 knots. So now it's aiming for 250 knots, and that's it. Now the speed is 250 knots and the altitude is 10,000 feet. Over here now I can turn off the lights as well, and just keep the anti-collision light on and the strobe and steady on. That's it. Seatbelt signs are set to auto, otherwise you can also turn them off if you set them to on like this. Okay, that's it. So everything is good now. Now let's say if I want to climb up to 32,000 feet, so I can change the altitude, and as now I have changed the altitude, you can see the speed has also increased. Now generally, if I want to start the climb, I will press this button and the climb will start. So I have tried everything, but the climb doesn't start. The plane keeps on flying at this altitude, 10,000 feet. So for this, what you can do is that you can activate this level change. This is the flight level change button. Now the VNAV is not active and the level change is active. So the level change will come into action, and it will follow all the constraints during the climb, if there are any. So let's say if I go to this option legs, you will see that these altitude constraints will appear over here, but right now there is no constraint. During the descent there will be. However, it will climb up to 32,000 feet if there is any constraint. But now you can see the speed is not managed by the autopilot. I can change it, and you can see it's appearing over here as well, MCP speed, which is mode control panel speed. So I can adjust the speed, and you can see that the vertical speed will also change. So in this mode, the speed is the priority, and the vertical speed will keep on getting adjusted in order to maintain the speed. So if I reduce the speed, the vertical speed will increase, as you can see, and if I increase the speed, you will see that vertical speed will decrease. But now, if I go back to this VNAV mode, you will see that the plane will keep on climbing, and it will follow all the constraints for the speed and for the altitude. Let's see if it works. Now I'm also above 13,000 feet. I can change the barometric pressure to the standard. Just bring your cursor over here, hold it with the left mouse button, and then press the right one, and it will change to standard. Now you can see the plane is climbing, and it's following all the speed and the altitude constraints, if there are any, during the climb. So if it doesn't work for you, then this is the trick that you can do in order to start the climb. Now you can see VNav is active and the plane is climbing. Now there is another mode, the vertical speed mode. In this mode, again, you can control the speed, and the vertical speed is now appearing over here, which shows you that now the plane is the vertical speed mode. So whatever the vertical speed I will set, the plane will follow it. But remember this thing, that in this mode, the vertical speed is the priority and the speed is not. So let's say if I go up to, let's say 3000 feet per minute, you can see the speed is reducing because the priority is the vertical speed. You only use this mode if you want to climb or descend to a certain altitude within a short distance. So that's why you can use it. Otherwise, just keep it in the VNav mode. Now you can see the plane will go up to this speed, and the vertical speed will be automatically adjusted. At any time, now you can see the climb has started again. At any time you can press this button, heading select. No, sorry, not the heading select, the altitude hold. I just, apologies for this. So altitude hold. So if you press this button, the plane will actually level off at the altitude at which you will press this button. Now the plane has leveled off and it will maintain the speed. Now you can see again, the speed is not controlled by the autopilot. Now you can adjust the speed, MCP speed, and altitude hold is appearing over here. Now, in order to start the climb, again, if I press this VNav button, now the speed is controlled by the autopilot, but the climb will not start, will it? No, it will not. And for this, again, if you press this button, the climb should start, but if it doesn't, then you can press the level change button. Then the climb will start, and then at any time, you can just go back to the VNav mode. Let's see if it works. Yes, take some time. Now the climb has started. So let's go back to the VNav mode, and you can see the plane will keep on climbing. So you can use this trick during the climb and the descent, and it will work for you. But right now you can see the plane is not in the LNAV mode, as I went in the heading mode, so the plane was not following the flight path. Now something about the heading select mode. Finally, we are here. So in this mode, the plane will actually follow whatever the heading you will set over here. So this is the heading bug. Let's say if I want to move in this direction, I can press heading select and the plane will start to turn right, left. And you will see the deviation is also appearing from the flight plan. It's right now it's on the flight plan. But now the deviation has started to appear. It's 0.3 nautical miles left. And if I press LNAV again, the plane will go back to the flight plan. As you can see, it has now started to follow the flight plan. LNAV is appearing over here. But if the deflection is big, then let me just go back to the heading select mode again. And let me just show you that if you have a higher deflection, then the plane will not follow this flight plan even if you activate LNAV. Right now, the active mode for the navigation is heading select. And VNav speed is active. So now it's, let's wait for 2 nautical miles of deflection towards left. And right now, if I press LNAV, you will see the plane will not go back to the flight plan. Now the heading select is active and LNAV is armed. And if you want to go back, you then have to change the heading. So let's change the heading and try to intercept this line. As soon as the plane is near this flight plan, it will again go to this LNAV mode because LNAV is now armed. And heading select mode is the current mode of navigation. Let's see that when the plane will follow this flight plan. Now the deflection is 1.4 nautical miles towards left. Soon the nav mode should become active, and yes, now it's active. So this is how you follow the flight plan if you face any deviation during the flight from the flight plan. Now everything is good, and the plane is going to 32,000 feet. Soon it will reach the top of climb, which is appearing over here. Now another thing, you can change the speed by moving this knob, and then you can control the speed, but I think there's this bug in this plane and you cannot change it. Even if I take it to speed, I cannot, because VNAV is active, and if I take the plane out of the VNAV mode, then you can change the speed. And automatically the level change mode is active. So you can keep it at 300 if you want to change the speed. So let's go back to the VNAV mode and let the autopilot do its job. So this is how you switch between different modes of autopilot. But generally, when I'm flying, I just keep it at VNAV and LNAV, and I let the autopilot do its job. Currently, I'm cruising at 32,000 feet, and soon I will be near the top of descent. So I have to do a few settings before I start the descent. Let's get the altitude to which I will be descending. So this is Hamad International Airport for Qatar. Let's select it, and let's select the approach, which is 34 right. So 2,500 is the altitude at which I will be intercepting this glide slope. So let's reduce the altitude. The descent will not start now, as the plane is in the VNAV mode. So that's why as soon as the plane will cross this point for the top of descent, the descent will automatically start. So this is now 2,500. Let's go to the flight management computer. But before this, let me just adjust the sunlight. I will just keep it over here. Okay. So for this, go to this option, init-ref, and go to index and approach. Now you have to select the flaps and the speed for the approach. Right now, the gross weight is 165.3, and according to this weight, these flap settings and the speeds are calculated. Now you have to actually get the new gross weight. So once the plane is at Hamad International Airport, there will be 26,000 pounds of fuel in the plane at the destination. So I was carrying 30,000 pounds. That's why I will just burn 4,000. Too much fuel for this flight. Okay. So let's go to index approach and 161.2. And now you will see we will get new speeds. So let's select this full flaps and 44 knots for the approach. And let's wait for the top of descent. Now the descent should start automatically. Let's wait for it. And that's it. Now this is the indicator for the vertical path, whether the plane is following the vertical path or not. If it's in the middle, it means everything is good. If this triangle is above, then it means you are lower than the vertical path. And if this triangle is over here, then it means you are higher than the vertical path. If you're lower than the vertical path, then it's okay. But if you're higher than the vertical path, then you have to increase the descent rate in order to follow this vertical path. That's it. So now it's a long way to go, and there are many constraints during this flight, and the plane will actually follow them. Now one more thing I just want to let you know is this, that I'm using, let me just get the controller settings I'm using the Thrustmaster TC Quadrant, the Airbus edition, and I'm using the default settings for it. So if you open these control settings, you will see TCA Quadrant, Airbus 1 and 2, 2004, transversal. So these settings are there. I've not changed anything, and the reverse thrust works for me. Although I haven't adjusted the sensitivity for the throttle, so I will make a separate video for that. But for this video, I will just use the reverse thrust. Otherwise, for the rest of the thrust settings, I'm using the controller on the side stick. Now the transition altitude for this airport is 13,000 feet. So at this altitude, I will also adjust the altimeter. And below 10,000 feet, I will turn on the lights. The seatbelt signs are set to auto, so they will automatically turn on. And that's it. Now you can see that there is a speed constraint, and the speed is 230 knots after this point. And now the speed is not reducing. So you can activate the speed brakes so that the plane follows this speed restriction without impacting the descent rate. You can see the plane is slightly lower than the descent profile, but it's okay. Now you can see the speed brakes are active. That's it. Now I can do this. Now the plane is about to cross 13,000 feet. So I will now change the barometric pressure from the standard to the given one. So hold it with the left mouse button and then click it with the right one and press comma. So now you will get the barometric pressure. Altimeter is now correct. That's it. Now over here on this panel, if you just move over here, you have to enter the ILS frequency, and ILS frequency for runway 34 right is 110.1. So this is the ILS. You can change the mode. If I press this button, it goes to VOR and then ILS. So if you're carrying out VOR navigation, then you can set the VOR frequency. Otherwise, you will set it for the ILS. You can clear it. Can I? No. Okay, let's enter 110.1 and press this button to make it the active. And now you also have VOR over here because it's swapped. So you can change the mode and 110.1 as a contingency. I'm doing this. So let's keep ILS on both of the modes. Now the plane is below 10,000 feet. I can turn on the lights. Turn off lights, taxi lights, landing lights, logo, wing, and wheel well. All the lights are on now. And that's it. Everything is good. No errors. So now it's time to set the minimums, and the minimums are given over here. Category 3, it's the most precise ILS approach and landing. And then you have Category 2, Category 1, and localizer, DME, which is the least precise ILS approach and landing. So as ILS is carried out by the instruments, so that's fine. It has to be accurate. This plane can perform a Category 3 landing. So you can set the CN height to be 75 feet above the ground. The runway elevation is 13. Another thing that you have to do, you have to set the landing altitude. So the landing altitude is, I will keep it at 50 because you can either keep it 0 or 50. And that's it. So it's 13 feet. So you can keep 75, but as it's mentioned over here as company, so the company provides you. For Category 2, it's based on the radio. So in this type of altitude calculation, radio signals are sent to the ground to get the distance. And the category 1 and localizer DME, which is distance measuring equipment, DME stands for, is based on the barometric pressure. So you measure the altitude based on the barometric pressure. So for category 2, I will set it to radio. Just move this knob, move it to radio, and then you can move this smaller knob to adjust the altitude. It will be 150. Actually, you have to be very careful while moving this knob. If you move too much, then it changes. Let me just adjust it. It's a bit tricky. And that's it. So you can also keep 230 if you are using baro. And you can now see that as I've entered the ILS frequency over here, this diamond has started to appear, which shows you the vertical deviation from the glide slope. Now we have to further reduce the speed. So let me just get the speed brakes. And now you can see the speed is at 220 knots. This is the speed at which you can just fly without any flaps. But now as I am below 250 knots, I can extend the flaps. And I will keep it at 2 degrees. And then I can just like deactivate the speed brakes. And that's it. So now you can see this diamond is going up as we are at a good altitude. And the plane is following the vertical path. Now there is another thing I just want to tell you. As now I have extended the flaps, so they are providing drag and the speed is getting reduced. I don't have to use the speed brakes anymore. But now the speed is getting reduced. If I retract the flaps, you will see the speed will increase. And that's it. If I further retract the flaps, it will go up to 220. So that's how you control the speed once the plane is below maybe 5,000 feet. Now you can hear this stall warning. So that's why you should get the flaps. So this was just for the purpose of demonstration. Now you have to arm the speed brakes for the landing. So just move this lever to this point armed, and now you will see this green light. It means speed brake armed. And make sure that the speed brakes are not active. Otherwise you will have an issue. You need to arm them for the landing because once you will activate the reverse thrust, the speed brakes will also come into action to slow down the plane on the runway. And these are the auto brakes. I cannot change it. Yeah. Actually, I'm using the Thrustmaster TCA quadrant, so that's why I had to set it over there. So now I have set it to max. What's happening? Can I move it? This is like very strange. I think it's kind of a bug. Let me just try to do it again. Very strange. I've been actually flying this plane a lot and never faced this issue. This is kind of a Murphy's Law. Every time when you are making a video, this thing happens. And what if I... Oh, I cannot do that. If I set them to maximum. I'm changing the view and this thing is happening. Anyhow, you can ignore it. I will apply the brakes myself. Now I can just extend the flaps. Let's adjust the heading. The heading of the runway is 336, if I'm not wrong. You need it for the missed approach procedure and in case you want to fly this heading mode. That's it. I can further extend the flaps. So the runway is now 10.4 nautical miles away. I can further extend the flaps. And with this, I can activate this approach mode for the autopilot. Now in this mode, the autopilot will not only fly this straight flight path, it will follow this lateral flight navigation, but also follow the glide slope, which is this one, 3-degree descent towards the runway as soon as this diamond is in the middle. So this is for the lateral navigation, and this is for the vertical path. And now you can see the plane has started to descend towards the runway. So the minimums are set, lights are on, speed brake is armed for the landing. Let's try the auto brakes one more time. Or maybe I just keep it like this and I don't change the view, because I can activate the speed brakes, but if I change the view, this is very funny. As soon as I right click, this thing happens. So I will not do this. No right clicks. Now you can see VNAV and LNAV are not active, and now the approach is active, because approach is carrying out both of the navigations, the LNAV and the VNAV. And now I can lower the gears and extend the flaps. And now, as the speed is not controlled by the autopilot, so I have to reduce it, 144 knots. This is the speed for the approach. Now you will see that the speed is also reducing. Now landing gears down, full flaps, and if you look at this small circle, it should be in the middle. So you have to keep this in the middle during the landing. I can close the AFB. No more right clicks. And now I can deactivate the autopilot and try to land the plane myself by keeping this in the middle. Actually, I have only performed 3 or 4 landings with this plane in the new simulator, so my skills might not be so good for this landing. Landings are always a challenge. So I'm just trying to aim for this smaller circle.
300. Approaching minimums.
Approaching minimums. That's it.
Minimums. 100. Flight slow. Flight slow. Flight 50. Slow. Flight slow. 30. Flight slow. Flight slow. 20.
I think this is not correct because, I have missed the touch point. Anyhow, I can reduce the thrust and activate the reverse thrust. And now let's see. Yeah, the speed brakes are active with the reverse thrust. And below 80 knots, I can deactivate the reverse thrust and apply brakes to slow down. The auto brakes, I can deactivate them. That's it. So that's how you land this plane and carry out an ILS approach. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the comment section, or if you want to add anything to this video, the comment section is there for you. Thank you very much for watching it. Have a nice day. Hope to see you soon.